Good morning, beautiful people. I hope you are having a wonderful day so far. Today, I want to talk about light and sleep and how they interact and all of that. So first, let's understand our circadian rhythm, right? We've got two main hormones at play here, cortisol and melatonin. I'm sure you've heard of both of them. Cortisol is often labeled incorrectly as the stress hormone. Oh, it's so bad. Cortisol is awful. No, it has good and bad things, right? We don't want to have chronically high cortisol, but that's just like how we don't want to have chronically high anything, really. Cortisol has been demonized, but it is part of our circadian rhythm. It's what helps us wake up. And it's why cortisol is highest in the morning, and then it goes down. And melatonin is the opposite, right? Melatonin is what helps us go to bed. So what does this have to do with light? Well, light, specifically blue light, blue light reduces it the most. Light reduces melatonin production from the pineal gland, which is sort of the gland in your brain that you can think of as secreting most of your hormones. And blue light suppresses melatonin production more than other wavelengths of light. So obviously suppressing melatonin production is going to end up harming our sleep, which is bad. We need good sleep. Bad sleep will harm you in so many ways. Sleep is the one thing, if you really want to get dialed in with your health and everything regarding your life, get your sleep in check first. Having good sleep, a good circadian rhythm, and consistently good sleep will make it 10 times easier to achieve everything else in life, whether that be a training goal, nutrition goal, just a career goal, anything. Because when we look at, first of all, nutrition, right, we see decreased fat oxidation, so decreased fat burning, if you will. We see a decrease in leptin, normally, which is the fullness hormone. We've even seen decreases in RMR, so basically just your metabolism in general, just how many calories it takes to keep the lights on from sleep restriction. And so this is short-term sleep restriction. We don't even know how bad chronic sleep restriction can be. Chronic chronodisruption, which is kind of a cool word for just not consistent sleep, inconsistent sleep, has been linked to a lot of different cancers as well. Of course, this is correlational research, right? It's not the highest level, but it's still something to think about because sleep is very, very, very important for your brain, for remodeling, for recovery, for cognition as well, for memory development. So when we're thinking about sleep, it really is fundamental for everything. And not even just from the physiological standpoint of, oh, leptin's now lower, so I'm gonna feel less full. It's also on that decision-making side of things of people tend to just have higher caloric intakes when they are sleep restricted. And funny enough, the opposite happens as well. We have studies where they've essentially boosted people's sleep by, I think it was an hour and a half, and their calorie intake decreased by, I think, around 250. Don't quote me on that, but it was significant. I know that it was statistically significant, but it was a significant amount practically as well. So all of that to just glaze sleep. And that's not even the end of it, right? We have decreases in sleep chronically is going to increase muscle protein breakdown. We've seen decreases in muscle protein synthesis as well. So it's impairing your ability to retain and grow new muscle. And the cognition effects, it's linked with dementia, all kinds of bad things. It can harm your gut health because your gut has its own circadian rhythm. Sleep can impact your gut. That's pretty much how 99% of things are with your gut. Your gut is involved in literally everything, and it's always a circular pathway of your gut impacting something, and then that something also impacting your gut. And of course, your gut impacts your sleep because it's something like 70 to 90% of your serotonin is produced from your gut, the feel-good hormone. And it's not your brain. And of course, you need serotonin to make melatonin. Crazy. So enough with the glazing sleep. Let's talk about light. What does light have to do with it? Well, we already talked about how blue light, well, all light suppresses melatonin production, and blue light in particular is the worst offender. So what do we do with this information? Well, 2 to 3 hours before bed, we should really be trying to minimize our light exposure in general, but specifically with blue light. And things like blue light glasses do seem to be helpful. Really, the most practical way to do this is just use night mode on all of your devices. It just straight up puts them into well, the easier way to do it is just to not use any devices, but I understand that's not practical. So put your things into night mode where the screen literally just doesn't even use or doesn't even output blue light wavelengths. Boom, easy. Stack that with blue light blocking glasses, and they need to be at least amber shaded. They don't need to be fully red, but at least amber. If they're just clear, you're being performative. Good job, you have some glasses that you wasted $10. You're not doing anything, maybe a tiny bit, but really not much. So they need to be at least amber. Red all the way is probably overkill, but again, not gonna be bad. And clear is doing nothing. So blue light blocking glasses plus night mode is gonna be your best bet. And I would also invest in some color changing light bulbs. They're not super expensive, and you can change it to be warmer light. And that also, I would put them in lamps. So invest in lamps and invest in color changing light bulbs for those lamps, because now you can have a nice amber hue, a nice little orange warm light, and it's not overhead that's just blasting your eyeballs, and that will significantly improve your sleep. I will tell you from my own experience, obviously we have the data to back it up, but also from my own experience, I don't use overhead lights at all anymore. And I bought lamps and I bought light bulbs for them that change colors. And so I only do warm colors at night, and my sleep has been significantly better. Now, the other thing with light and with sleep, so let's say you're doing that, but you hop into bed and then your room is somewhat bright. Bad. We have studies. So they measure light basically with, it's called lux. And it's like the light that you see a candle from a meter away. And it's essentially, it's just a brightness determinant. So they've measured people's sleep, both subjective and objective. So that just means subjective is they'll be like, hey, I just sleep, how you feel? And then objective is where they actually have monitors that they look at things like what wavelengths you were producing and how much time you spent in different stages of sleep. And the really interesting paper that I just read on this was they compared 0, so basically Batcave, to 5 and then to 10 lux. So 5 and 10 lux is still very dim. That's a dim nightlight, if anything, is what that would be comparable to. And they found significant decreases in sleep quality, again, subjective and objective, from just 5 lux. There was no difference between 5 and 10, but there was a difference between 0 and 5. So 5 impacted sleep just as much as 10. So really what that tells us is there is a gradient of, because there's another paper that looked at 100 lux, and that was way worse for sleep than 0, and way worse than 5 and 10. So really it's not even just the severity of light, the brightness, it's also just the presence of light. And evolutionarily, that makes sense, right, when you think about it, because it wouldn't really matter to our brains of how much light there was. It's just like, oh, sun's up, right? It might be a little bit brighter, a little bit dimmer based on the clouds or the time of year, but sun's up, get up, time to go hunt and gather. So that was a cool finding that I read, was it really is just the presence of any light is going to be significantly worse than if you have Batcave, no light. And so that would be my suggestion, is invest in some blackout curtains, man, because I'll tell you right now, again, anecdotally, I was just back home in Wyoming and I was sleeping really good at my parents' house, and I was on a shittier mattress with shittier pillows and shittier temperature control. Temperature is also very important for sleep. Your body needs to drop its core temperature to sleep. You should be sleeping at around 66 degrees Fahrenheit. If it sounds cold, it is. That's why you're supposed to have blankets. Anyways, significantly worse conditions, but I did keep my circadian rhythm in check. I went to bed at the same time and woke up at the same time. I kept that good. And I noticed I slept way better. And I was like, what am I doing differently? I did bring my blue light blocking glasses, And so all of those variables were in check, and all I could think about was it's way darker there. And because where I live right now, I live at an apartment, and the window in my bedroom is facing the courtyard area where the pool is. And so there's lights on out there all the time. And it makes our bedroom fairly bright, definitely more than 10 lux. And so that got me to thinking of, wow, it's gotta be the light. And I do tend to sleep better when I use an eye mask, but then I get sweaty. So it's kind of a pick your poison type of deal. And so I would say light is important, and managing light for having good sleep hygiene and having good sleep in general. So another thing with your circadian rhythm and with light is setting it is very important. So getting sunlight on your skin, on your eyeballs, direct sunlight, not through a window, in the morning has been shown to have significant positive effects on circadian rhythm. So every single time, if you can, just get outside, even if it's just 10 minutes, and get some sunlight on your eyeballs within that first 30 minutes of waking up, and you'll feel so much better, I promise. And then also seeing the sun set, or at least seeing that it's dark. So my favorite way of doing this is just, if you have a balcony or a patio or a backyard, just eat your breakfast outside right after you wake up, or at least go for a 10-minute digestion walk after your breakfast outside. And then same thing, go for a 10-minute digestion walk after your last meal of the day, which if you're eating 3 or 4 meals a day, it's gonna be sunset or it's gonna be dark outside. And that just tells your brain, hey, it's light, hey, it's not. Get that cortisol bumping, get that melatonin shut off, and then on the flip side, get that melatonin bumping to get that cortisol dropping. And oh my God. So that's the best way to set it. But sleep and light are very tied together, and essentially avoid light at night, specifically blue light. Wear your blue light blocking glasses. Again, they have to be amber or red. You ain't doing shit with them clear ones. And avoid screens as well, preferably as much as you can, right? And even with having them in night mode and having the blue light blocking glasses, I would still say try to just not have any screens in that 30 minutes prior to bed. And keep your phone out of your fucking bedroom. That's another one, is just charge your phone in your living room or wherever you got to do it, in your bathroom maybe. And that'll just completely avoid the temptation. And then it'll also make you get up out of bed to actually have to go and shut your alarm off, which will get you the chronic alarm snoozers. That's a good one to stop that, because I used to be a chronic snoozer. And then when you actually have to get up to go snooze your alarm, it makes it way harder to stick to actually snooze it and go back. But that's my practical advice. And then get some sunlight in the morning, see the sun go down, or at least see that it's dark outside, and keep your room the bat cave. That's the other one. That's honestly probably the best piece of advice I could give you, is keep your room a bat cave. Keep it cold, ideally around that 66 degrees, 66 to 68, and as dark as you possibly can get it. If you can't get it super dark, blackout curtains are great for that, or use a sleep mask, again, if it doesn't make you sweaty, because then it's the same thing, right? Now you're giving up to the temperature drop. So that's my practical advice. If you learned something, drop a comment, subscribe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.